Good evening. I'd like to call to order the November 2019 meeting of the Radnor Township Zoning Hearing Board. We'll begin by joining in the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite those folks to. Thank you. We have one matter on our agenda for this evening. Appeal number 3050, the applicant, EIP Partnership LLC, property located at 147 Conestoga Road and zoned R5 residential. The applicant is equitable owner of a lot dimensioned 106 feet by 150 feet, on which exists a semi-detached, one side of a twin home, single-family dwelling. Applicant seeks a variance from Section 280-35A1 of the zoning code in regards to lot area and lot width in order to create a lot for the existing home with the same lot area and lot width as the adjoined semi-detached dwelling. Applicant also seeks a variance from Section 280-35A1 to create a lot, the same dimensions as the adjacent lot, and a variance for a newly created corner lot from Section 280-35A3 for a front yard setback for one of the front yards on which the twin home abuts. In the alternative, applicant seeks such other relief required in accordance with the plans and testimony presented to the Zoning Hearing Board. Counsel?
Nick Camelia, representing the applicant, and sorry for the wordy application. This is a property that is on the corner of Conestoga and Doyle Road in Wayne. Up here in this location is Lancaster Avenue that runs perpendicular to Conestoga Road, and there's approximately maybe a block or two off the Lancaster Avenue Conestoga Road intersection. You'll see here the area that is being purchased is this area here. We are not buying.
For the record, Norma, that's the dark line on the plan.
The dark line on the plan,
which has not yet been entered.
Right. And I'll have the applicant testify to all of this. And just by brief opening, we're purchasing this part of the twin and then the rest of this property. This twin on this side, which is 145 Conestoga Road, is under separate ownership. You'll see by the lot, we have a lot that's 106 feet wide by 150 feet deep. The proposal here, you see the existing plan and the exhibit. One has been A4 and one is A7. The plan, we're buying this half of the twin and this lot here in this area, which borders on Doyle and Conestoga, as I mentioned. The proposal is to build two twins in this area on the lot. And that's what the proposal is about. So we'll swear in Colin.
I do. Colin Whalen, COLLINWHELAN.
And where do you live, Colin?
Nick, I'm sorry, do you want the mic? I'm sorry, we didn't put it up.
Colin, where do you reside?
I reside at 211 Poplar Avenue in Wayne.
And what's your relationship to the proposed buyer of the property?
I'm a member of the LLC purchasing the property.
We have marked, and the board has in front of them, the deed, which is marked as A2, and this accurately represents the deed to the property.
Yes, sir.
And also, we have a redacted portion of the agreement sale showing that your LLC is purchasing the agreement sale. We marked that as A3.
Yes.
A4, if you can, could you describe for the board what A4 represents?
So A4 represents the existing twin structure that we are purchasing along with the side lot, which corners Doyle and Conestoga.
And looking at A5 is A5, just a photograph of the existing twin that you're buying on the right, and the other side of the twin being 145 Conestoga Road on the left.
Yes, A5 is 145 and 147 Conestoga.
And A6, if you can just identify for the board what A6 represents.
A6 represents the structure being purchased, the lot being purchased, the intersections of Conestoga and Doyle going north towards Lancaster Avenue.
Is there any significance in this picture on the homes on Doyle Road?
So you'll find that all the homes on Doyle are non-conforming for front yard, which is 25 feet, and practically all of them are 10 feet and under. One is 15 feet to the north of us, but all the others are all non-conforming front yard.
And A7 that I've shown the board on opening statement, is this the existing survey for the property?
Yes, that is the existing survey.
And currently, 147 Conestoga Road has a driveway in this location. I guess it would be on the north side of the property.
Yes, there's an existing driveway off of Doyle on the north side of the property.
And the proposed, and first off, currently, the existing plan does not have a sidewalk on Doyle, correct?
That's correct.
It does have a sidewalk on Conestoga Road?
That's correct.
And you did go to the Planning Commission and heard their recommendations regarding this plan?
Yes.
And what was at least one of the recommendations regarding sidewalk?
One of the recommendations was adding a sidewalk along Doyle, which you'll see later on a supplemental exhibit that we're adding a sidewalk on Doyle.
Okay, and why don't we show that exhibit there? Now, this exhibit is very similar to A8 that's already in the package, and it just includes the sidewalk. Is that correct?
It includes the sidewalk. It also includes the proposed building footprint, and it also includes driveway layout that the Planning Commission recommended to eliminate curb cuts on Conestoga and utilizing the existing curb cut off at Doyle.
Okay, we'll hand those up. Go ahead.
Nick, my copy of the existing conditions was not marked A7.
Is it?
Do you know
Does it say
if the-
existing track plan, John?
Yeah.
Oh, it's marked on the side, does it say exhibit A7?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Should be in the title block.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Got it. Okay, thanks.
Now, we've marked as A13. This is the new plan, which in effect is replacing A8, correct?
That's correct.
It's the same as A8, except, as you mentioned, it adds some things.
Yeah, it's the same as A8. It just adds the footprint of the proposed building, the proposed driveways for all three lots, and the sidewalk that the Planning Commission was asking for on Doyle.
Because A8 just showed the building envelope.
That's correct.
So now you've reduced the footprint to be smaller than the building envelope.
That's correct.
And that was one of the requests of the Planning Commission as well?
That's correct.
Now, currently, as we mentioned, 147 Conestoga Road, the existing twin, they access the property or park the property on Doyle. Are you proposing a driveway on Conestoga Road for that twin?
Yeah, similar to 145 Conestoga, we are proposing to add the same driveway for 147.
And the plan indicates the driveway for 145 on the opposite side?
That's correct.
As we mentioned, you do not own 145. That's under separate ownership.
That's correct.
And as to the proposed twin that you're constructing, where would the driveway and curb cut be located?
So the existing curb cut would be reutilized off of Doyle, and it would be a shared driveway for the two new twins.
So we would obviously have to have an easement agreement between the two of them
That's
if
correct.
this was ever approved. And also, it indicates sidewalks along Doyle Road per the Planning Commission recommendation.
That's correct.
Now, what we're doing here, currently, 145 Conestoga Road is 30 feet wide by 150 feet deep.
Correct?
And 147, are you proposing similar dimensions, 30 feet wide by 150 feet deep?
The exact same dimensions as 145.
And then for Lot 2, which is this lot here, remember, 147, Lot 1 and Lot 2 being the part of the twin adjacent to it, what are the dimensions of that lot?
30 by 150, the same as the two neighboring twins.
And then finally, the dimensions of Lot 3 is larger, correct?
Would be larger, and it would be 46 by 150.
Now, are there some issues with lot width here because we're dealing with right-of-way and front yard setback?
So we are seeking relief on front yard setback on Doyle. That's the relief.
Do these twins or these three lots all comply with the building coverage requirements of the zoning code?
Building coverage, yes.
Does it also comply with the impervious coverage on the zoning code?
Yes, and you'll see both of that on the zoning table on A13.
Also, I believe that you have some elevations, and I don't know if we've marked them.
A14 and A15.
Oh, sorry. Why don't you start describing?
Thank you.
Didn't make enough, sorry.
You got it? You good? A14, can you tell the board what A14 represents?
A14 represents the proposed renderings of the structures we plan to build.
And this is of the new twins, correct?
This is the new twins if you were on Conestoga, facing the front elevation.
And A15?
A15 is a rendering of the proposed rear elevation of the two twins.
Now, I've marked a number of other exhibits in the board. The first one is A9. First, let me ask you, when were these homes in this area for basically the block from here going up to Lancaster Avenue on both sides of the street, when were these homes built?
Circa 1920, between 1920 and 1930.
And I'm showing you what's been marked as A9, and that's the Radnor Township zoning code, which first came into effect in 1928.
Yes.
Okay, and just made this part of the record. And the reason is, one, these homes were built before then, but even if they were built after that in 1928, there was no lot width requirement or lot area requirements for twins. Although in this zoning district, twins were permitted, as you can see. There was no dimensional requirements outside of, I believe, a 10-foot or a 9-foot wide side yard setback requirement. Now, I'm showing you what's been marked.
Nick, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
What, you make that point for what significance to the board?
That we have numerous nonconformities in this area, basically showing this is very consistent with the neighborhood and the fact that this is a nonconformity as regarding dimensional, and it's consistent with everything else in the area.
You happen to know when the currently applicable zoning designation for this property was adopted?
I would say it probably was 1965, which is when the current zoning code was basically adopted in Radnor Township.
Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked as A10. And A10, again, this is information from the county as well as the deed for 145 Conestoga Road.
That's correct.
And the deed does indicate, as does the survey, that the lot is 30 feet by 150 feet.
That's correct.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as A11. And first, if you can just describe the first page of A11 there and describe what area we're talking about and what it represents.
So A11 represents the 100 block of Conestoga, which is basically right after the car wash. If you're heading east on Conestoga, and you'll see all the residential structures on the south side of Conestoga are all twins, and all of those lots are under 30 feet wide and non-conforming. To the north is commercial properties, and then residential starts maybe halfway through the block.
Now, I've marked as A11A, again, property cards from the county, and the purpose of this is it indicates the lot size for these lots. And if you turn to the second page first of A11, again from the county website, you see basically the lots, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And what A11A, is it correct? A11A basically represents the property card for those lots, showing the lot dimensions for each.
Correct.
And starting with 100, if we can just go through these quickly, I think they speak for themselves, but starting with 100 Conestoga Road, the lot dimensions are what?
25 by 180.
And that would be non-conforming clearly.
Correct.
Then going to 102 Conestoga Road, and we're working our way down Conestoga Road now, correct?
That's correct.
On the side opposite.
Opposite the property on the south side of Conestoga heading east.
So 102 Conestoga Road.
26 by 170.
104 Conestoga Road.
50 by 177, but this is a duplex.
And so the duplex in the Radnor Code requires a 55-foot wide.
That's
property.
correct.
106 Conestoga Road.
25 by 170.
108 Conestoga Road.
25 by 173.
110 Conestoga Road.
25 by 168.
112 Conestoga Road.
25 by 168.
114 Conestoga Road.
26 by 164.
116 Conestoga Road.
26 by 162.
118 Conestoga Road.
50 by 158, also a duplex.
120 Conestoga Road.
35 by 155.
122 Conestoga Road.
38 by 153.
And 124 Conestoga Road.
71 by 158.
And that's also
A duplex.
I believe. Now, I'm going to show you also, looking at the plan, we've indicated Lot 3.
And that's A13, Nick?
Yes, it is, A13. On Lot 3, the required front yard setback would be 25 feet. And actually, if we showed that on, I don't know if it doesn't show on A7, I think on, for A8. A8, which is the plan that A13 superseded, does show the building envelopes, and it indicates the front yard, the legal front yard setback for Lot 3. Now, Lot 3 is a corner lot, correct?
Correct.
And under the Radnor Code, technically, you have 25-foot front yard setbacks on each.
Correct.
And we're maintaining a 25-foot setback on Conestoga Road.
That's correct.
It's on Doyle Road that we're asking for the relief. And if we had to comply with a 25-foot yard setback along Doyle Road for lot number 3, how wide would the house be?
I believe 13 and a half feet.
I think it's actually 5 feet.
Oh, yeah, you're right, sorry.
It would be 5 feet, right? Okay. Now, going back to the exhibit on,
But Nick, if you subdivided it into two, that's not the case.
if we you mean into just a
Two
single-
lots.
It would
One
be,
establish
yeah,
and
we
one
would
with the other.
have a front yard setback of, if lot 1 complied here, the front yard setback for a single would just be 13 and a half feet. So even if we just put a single family here in compliance with
In
zoning.
lots 2 and 3. So
In lots 2 and
2 and
3,
3 was
yes.
one lot instead of two lots.
Yes, would
You would
be-
have 20 plus,
We would still have 13 and a half feet wide.
how's that
Because
possible?
if this, it depends. Well, one, if you kept the 30 here, if you kept this as 30, if you kept lot one is 30 feet wide instead of 40 feet wide.
Yep.
We would be able to widen it to 16 and a half feet for a single. Because what you have here is you have the right-of-way, even though the property line goes in the middle of the street like it normally does in Radnor on Doyle Road, the right-of-way is 16 and a half feet, and then when you're measuring 25 feet in, that's where it comes in. So in this case, for example, if this was still 30, you'd have a 10-foot side yard setback. You have a 10-foot side yard setback. You would have the right-of-way 26 and a half. You would have the setback of 25 more, making it 51 and a half. And the lot is only 66 feet wide. You want to try that again?
The two lots, you may be right, but just to clarify,
sure.
the two lots that you're seeking to subdivide total 76 feet at the curb.
Correct. That's correct. So if you were going to go one, if we got the relief for the 30-foot lot width for lot one, and so now we have 76 feet left. You have 10-foot side yard setback that you have to maintain. That takes you down to 66 feet. You have 16 and a half foot right-of-way. That takes you down to about 50 feet. And then you have 25. And I don't, trying to think if I'm missing something here.
You're missing the difference between one house and two houses.
Well, no. I meant if we just put the one house in. I was trying to show you that it may not be wide enough for one house as well.
But again, I guess all I'm asking is, you have your left house is 20 foot width, right? The other house is 20 foot width with a 10-foot setback. So instead of it being 10, it's 15, or 25. So you're making just one house 25 feet wide as opposed to 20 feet wide. So there's a way to make this work with less variances, to put a single family on there that's, instead of two duplexes at 20, you could have a single family at 25 and be in compliance with at least the front yard setback on one. You'd just be looking at dimensional variances on the subdivision. Trying to figure out if there's an alternative scenario here.
I understand.
Yeah. And again,
I'm just thinking
the other
about
thing
the
that
numbers
I
again.
want to caution you on is, and I talked just briefly with the solicitor, I think your impervious coverage is wrong, because I don't think you're taking into account sidewalks.
If it's not in the right-of-way, we don't have to. That may be the reason.
Well, that maybe that's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
for the existing property?
Yeah, Radnor is the denominator
No,
on
I'm
the
looking at the
pervious.
existing one, too.
The denominator on the pervious coverage is, we're not asking for relief on
I get
impervious
that.
coverage, so obviously if it's off.
But
you
it's
know,
a
we're
set
not
of
asking
plans
for
that's
relief.
saying that you're actually in compliance with,
Yeah.
you're at the limit for impervious for everything. So this lot 2 cannot even add a single paver without having to come to us. So there's no patio, no nothing, which I can speak from experience because I know my neighbors that were at their impervious coverage. They just added stuff, and so it didn't help us. It's actually a negative when you have nothing left for people to do.
According to at least according to to A13, which is engineered plan, it indicates that the maximum permitted is 40%. Lot 1 is 39, so it's close. Lot 2 is 40, and Lot 3 is 28.4. So you're right, they're close on all of them.
Just assuming that it's not taking into account sidewalks, because I was just doing calcs, because I was like, this seems like it's more than 40% just from looking at it, and you're right, it's really, really close, but clearly not taking into account any sidewalk on Lot 2. And I don't even know, I didn't do the calcs on Lot 1, but it is certainly.
Yeah, just going back to
Yeah.
it, I think on the numbers that we were talking about for single family, if we have a 76-foot wide, assuming that this lot 1's 30 feet wide, which leaves us with 76 feet for this lot here, correct, for lots 2 and 3? So If you take away 10-foot side yard setback, it brings you to 66. If you add the 16 and a half and the 25, we're talking 41 and a half. So it'd be 51. So we're still, I believe, 16, 41, 51. So we're talking about a 25 foot wide. 20 foot wide, single home. Yeah. Going to, I'll move along. Going to A12. Can you describe for the board what A12 represents?
A12 represents an aerial view of Doyle Road from Conestoga to Lancaster, showing the nonconformity of the front yard setbacks.
And can you just describe what we're talking about here? What these numbers represent?
The numbers represent from the right-of-way to the front of each house.
And you can describe what they are as you go up the street.
Yeah, so we have the property immediately to the north of our property has a 15-foot setback. The next one to the north is 10, 10, 10, and then the entire east side of Doyle is also 10-foot setbacks.
Are those homes up and down Doyle singles or twins?
Some are twin,
I think the one on the corner,
is definitely a twin. And
these may be singles.
yeah, I'm not sure. It's
Just from experience, these may be singles.
Just to respond to the folks, anyone who wants to speak after these folks will have a chance to speak.
And I know there's a duplex up on the corner by Lancaster. That's all I have at this time.
Questions from the board? I will start with, reference was made to a visit to the Planning Commission.
that's correct.
And Planning Commission made some recommendations, but took no position on whether it would advise this board to grant relief, but made some notes in the event that we were inclined to grant relief. There's at least one of the recommendations, if not more, that are beyond the purview of this board, making reference to development criteria that I don't think we are conversant with.
Yeah, I think they may have been referring to the actual footprint. I believe, I could be mistaken.
Yeah. But without having been at the Planning Commission meeting and only seeing their report, I was curious as to what your observations might be regarding why the Planning Commission took no position one way or the other on the proposal.
Yeah, what basically, and I think I'm not misstating, two of the Planning Commission members said we would just approve it the way it is. One said, I'm not in favor and would disapprove it. And the rest kind of said, if it's approved, we would like to see these conditions.
And to be clear, the approval of the Planning Commission is not a precondition to our granting relief this evening. It's just a procedural step that has to be taken under the zoning code for certain applications. And don't take, from the question the belief that they had to approve it, because we know that they did not have to approve it. The other question I'm struck by is this lot, this property has been in this condition for some time, an unimproved condition. I'm curious as to why, obviously you and your partners have gotten together and see an opportunity. I'm just curious as to why it may have remained undeveloped, unimproved for as long as it has.
The only real answer, I think, is it's been in the same family since the property was built. The original owner, Mary Donatoni, sold it to her relative in the 90s, and then she's been the current owner until, she put it for sale this year. So the only reason I can think of is it's been in the same family since construction.
It hasn't been available for development.
That's correct.
Quick question in regards to A14, which is the rendering. Now, clearly it's a rendering, so it's not intended to be too precise. That's missing the driveway onto Conestoga?
That is not showing the driveway for 147. That's correct.
That would kind of be wedged there in between the two of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's shown on A13, which mimics what exists for 145.
Yes, it's approximately, I would say, 22, 23 feet
And
between the two structures.
The Planning Commission asked that we elongate it past the front of the existing house, which we've done.
Thank you.
The other comments from the Planning Commission were trying to reutilize the existing curb cut off of Doyle, which we're doing, and adding the sidewalk on Doyle, which we've shown.
Any other board questions? Is there any member of the public who wish to speak?
My name is Jessica Fulgenetti Waltman, and that's spelled Jessica, Jessica. My maiden name is F-U-L, G as in girl, I, N as in Nancy, I, T as in Thomas, I, and my married name is W-A-L-T as in Thomas, M-A-N. My husband Douglas and I own 10 Doyle Road, and I would just like to note that many of my neighbors were unable to attend tonight. I know at least quite a few of them plan to or have already written in about this. We all received a notice of the potential variance. I will say we do get notices, as Radnor Township residents do fairly regularly, and this one was particularly confusing to us. We, as neighbors, talked about it quite a bit, and tried to get some information. My neighbors, Mike and Missy Lahota, had contacted you, I know, to get some additional points. They were not able to be here. I know that they intend to write to you. All of us have significant concerns about this proposal. So my property, there's a property in between 12 Doyle Road and this driveway.
If I could interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Perhaps we could put A6 on the board and you could show us where your property is.
Sure. Okay, so you can see the.
You can point to the plan on the, down there. And we'll see
Oh,
that one. Thank you.
And then, so I have neighbors on the other side of Conestoga and then on Doyle Road that all have share similar concerns. So we have a number of concerns. My husband and I have owned that home for 15 years. In between our home and this home, there is a home that is in extremely poor condition that has been its own subject of zoning issues. And anyway, the Doyle Road has a hairpin curve, as you can see in it. So living on that house, and there is no sidewalk there, and so the addition of the sidewalk is probably the only thing that I've heard so far that sounds pleasing to us. It is an extremely dangerous corner, and the thing about that street is that it is a cut-through. And so people come at fairly high rates of speed, particularly off of Conestoga Road and up every single day during kind of the rush hour times. And so there's a lot of children that live on Doyle Road. One of the questions was about why the property hadn't been developed. So one thing I wanted to point out is while it has been owned by the same family for a long time, it has been a rental for a long time, and it is frequently rented by people with children who actively use the side yard. That is the only space to play. And so it is not currently rented by someone with a child, but it was even fairly recently. And so for the 15 years that we've lived there, the most of the time it has been rented by someone with children who play in that yard. So I don't think it was ever, just to note that. It is, so that our street has some traffic challenges. It is too short to put speed bumps on. People come on and off of it all of the time. That there is a bus stop on that corner that is a very heavily utilized bus stop. It is a bus stop for all of the many children that live on Doyle Road, for high school, middle school, and Wayne Elementary School. All of the children that live on Conestoga Road going up towards where the Flag Lady was, which is a significant number of children. All of the children that live on Lantoga, all the children that live on Conestoga going south for about a block or two. So it's a fairly heavy bus stop in the morning. And I can tell you that corner is a significantly difficult corner to make either a left or a right-hand turn out of, and it is a significantly difficult corner to make a left-hand turn onto Doyle Road. I myself was in a very serious accident. And one of the main problems with that corner is a lack of visibility that currently exists just because, as you notice, there's a lot of shrubbery there. Now, I recognize that they plan to remove some of the shrubbery that is problematic now, but I can tell you that while that shrubbery is problematic, you can see through it. Not great, but you can see through it. You will not be able to see through a fairly large-sized house. So that is a really big concern. I have a daughter who is 16 years old and has her permit, and this is a very big challenge. Like, she cannot navigate the turn into our own street very successfully yet because it is so frightening to make that turn. We have seen many accidents there. Another thing that is another accident hazard on our street, my driveway is, my driveway is, and they're proposing to have a driveway here. And I can tell you that the house on 12 Doyle Road has 2 driveways, but the driveway that's right there, they don't use it. It's never been used. There is a cut through there. It is never in use. It is overgrown. It's just never been used in 15 years. The driveway next to it is not a well-utilized driveway. A lot of the people that have lived there do not have cars, or the family before that, just before that, they had 1 car. And it is a very underutilized driveway. If you were adding 2 homes, which much wider driveway and accommodating more parking, I have a concern because I can say from backing out of my own driveway, with the cars that come up at a rapid rate of speed, it is very challenging to get in and out of my own driveway. And there have been some near-miss accidents. And again, with a new driver, it's a serious concern. My neighbors on the other side of the street also have a similar problem. That there is a bend there in the curb. As you can see on this, that whole second half of the house was a 2-story addition that we put on. We did not need to get any variances for it, but we put that on about 7 years ago. It took over a year to complete. Nicolia was someone involved. So anyway, we were involved with that. It was, I can speak to someone who has had construction at her home that is further up the street. There is nowhere for construction vehicles to go. They cannot go on Conestoga Road there. The addition of the proposed driveway also I can see as a huge traffic hazard. There really isn't the space to back in and out of that driveway so close to the street. You can't really see from the proposal, but South Devon comes in right about there, and it would be very close to the South Devon corner. There are cars constantly cutting in and out of Doyle Road and to go down onto to South Devon. So
May I ask
a question?
another,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Would the potential harm to the neighborhood or the increase in some of the issues that you've discussed be meaningfully increased if there were 2 houses instead of 1? Because,
I mean, I personally think that one house would be better if you had to do anything. I recognize that our homes were characterized repeatedly as out of compliance or, the variations and stuff. I personally live in one of a Sears catalog home. There's less than 10,000 recognized and certified Sears catalog homes in the United States. Mine is one of them. So it has historic value. It was built in 1919. Yes, it has a 10-foot front yard. I think if you drove by it, you would see that it is a home that my husband and I take extreme pride in and have maintained and have taken every conceivable step to keep historically accurate, even adding on to it.
But
There
back
is
to
adding
my
in
question.
new
I mean, if we
construction.
could-
Yeah, one house would be better. This is an older stone house. I don't really think that, I mean, personally, I just don't aesthetically see that fitting in very well with such a small yards, but that's my personal opinion. I mean, one house would be better than two, but all of this traffic concern would be clear, because if you put a single-family home, you would still have the driveway on Conestoga, which would be very significantly cutting into the constant degree of left-hand turn onto South Devon. That backs up significantly at both morning and afternoon rush right there. Getting the driveway in and out, there's already a driveway there that's lightly utilized by the twin that exists. So you would have another, I mean, it would be two, one would be less than two, but you would still have that. Another concern, again, that we have is with where this construction would go, given that there's a bus stop right there. And I can speak from experience. There is nowhere for these trucks to go. Our neighbor that lives at 12 Doyle Road has some involvement with the Manella's Diner, and multiple times a week parks a refrigerator truck in front of that house illegally and has to be directed to move. And the amount of blocking and problems caused by just that one truck on the street, I know from our own experience, we had to use our driveway, and then we were able to negotiate something with Donahue Funeral Home to have trucks and things there, which was something that we negotiated with them. But it's too far away to get down to that. It was a struggle for our contractors to have the construction there. So it will be a problem, and you cannot really park easily if you have, it's illegal to park on that side of Doyle Road. It's really illegal to park anywhere on Doyle Road because of the visibility and the traffic issues. So I just have concerns about adding what would undoubtedly be at least a year-long construction project. We already have the doctor's office being built at the end of the street next to the funeral home. So we're just concerned about the noise and honestly, where would the flow of materials and traffic go? That part of the road was significantly blocked off last year because of the Conestoga improvements, and it caused huge traffic problems for the whole surrounding neighborhood. Adding this driveway and adding these construction vehicles, I think, would have a similar effect.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? No. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Seeing none?
Could, just sort of in the way of clarification for the record, while I think Mrs. Waltman's testimony was in good faith, I think we need to disregard her references to other neighbors. Are we aware of any letters having come in from any neighbors? Okay. So I think we take her testimony for her testimony. No.
We're-
I think they're coming.
I think they're late.
Well, we just found out about this.
If there's no other public comment, Nick, you want to?
We have a couple neighbors letters. I haven't marked all of them as, I've marked A15, A16, A17. I'll hand them up for the record, and then I have copies for the
Yeah, let the church go.
I'm sorry, they were 16, 17, 18. They all got notice, Mary. They were all within 500 feet. That's, yeah, they all got notice. And actually, I think I may have made a mistake on marking them. Gus told me that we were already up to 815, so it should be 16, 17, 18. George, I'm sorry.
So 16 is Gilmore?
16 is Gilmore, 17 is Whitehead, and 18 is Shirts. Shirt, S-H-E-R-T-Z.
Are any of these particularly in proximity to the property that you want to point out to us?
One is on the 100 block of Conestoga, and one is on the 100 block of Lantoga. The other is West Wayne.
Lantoga's over here.
So are each of them off the screen as to A6?
Yes, they're not on they're not on, they're off the street.
Anything else, Nick?
If I may just have a minute?
Certainly.
Ms. Riley, two of my neighbors have said that they emailed you directly today about this. So I'm just letting you know that they both have just texted me that they sent emails to you directly.
I'm sorry, what are they named, ma'am?
Okay.
Because I couldn't understand.
I know what you want to do, sorry. Do just when you had that decision. There's no change, okay. That's what I'm saying. If we don't- Okay.
If you're 100%.
Just if I may, talking to Mr. Whalen, and we're willing to remove all our requests except for the request for Lot 1, for lot width on Lot 1, and we request that would be 30 feet. And that would be the only request that we would make.
So the request for all other variances would be withdrawn,
Correct.
and only the request for the Lot 1 variance is before us for consideration.
Can I just restate that in my language to make sure that I'm understanding? That you're seeking to subdivide this parcel so that Lot 1, as you pointed out, would sort of mimic the size of the parcel of its partner twin, and that you would then have a second new parcel that would constitute the remainder, and then you'd have to decide what you could develop and whether it needed relief or not. And
Correct.
Motion to approve that. Love it.
I'll ask for a motion to approve the modification of the application to that which was just described by Mr. Martin. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There are none.
Thank you.
That was shocking.
Just so you know,
That was great.
What? We're done.
Bill, what's next?
looking for them, I should have come back and looking for the same roof again. But I don't think.
Yeah, I guess they're in suspense. All right, there being no other matters before the commission at this, or the board at this time, this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in December. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday, everybody.